We have to get that shit out of our game. If we do that, we'll be fine.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. And today's show is also brought to you by Chris Patterson, who is today's sponsor via Patreon. Thank you, Pato, for your sponsorship. If you want to be a sponsorship like Pato, head across to patreon.com/redrock_bball. My name is Josh Lloyd and you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at redrock_bball. If you are on Instagram, go ahead and give us a follow, and a big shout out to Jacob, who's been putting up the graphics over on Instagram and handling that account for me. He's been doing a great job, so head across and follow at redrock_bball and facebook.com/redrockbasketball. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you find it, and make sure you are checking out the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network. Going just a little bit early on today's show, there's about 5 minutes left in the Celtics-Lakers game as we're recording, but by the time we get to that game will be over and we can talk about it in the appropriate level of detail. We've got stuff to talk about, so
let's get to it.
That is a very, very good idea. Hopefully the live streaming issues are okay on Facebook today. All right, let's start with the monstrous line of the night, and that goes to Kyrie Irving of the Cleveland Cavaliers. A big night from Kyrie, a huge night, in fact. 43, 2 and 9, 5 triples, 4 steals and a block, a perfect 10 of 10 from the line, and he was 14 of 21 from the field. Real hard to go wrong with that, and I think a lot of people would be surprised when you tell them that Kyrie is the 16th ranked player this season, and over the last month he's the 9th ranked player. This is the sort of numbers that he put up in the first season with LeBron returning to Cleveland. Yeah, very similar. He was the 9th ranked player that year. And a lot of people have it in their head that no, Kyrie can't do it with LeBron around. He can't be that guy. That's just not the case. It's just not true, because he's done it now 2 years that he's been healthy with LeBron there. Yes, last season was a bit of a downer, playing only 53 games and being the 49th ranked player. But he's taken it up a notch. And one of the biggest strengths that Kyrie Irving has as a point guard is the fact that he can put up these numbers at such a huge efficiency. 47% this year. Back in that season, the first year with LeBron returned, 47% from the field as well. He's going at 91% from the line this year and doing it on 4.5 attempts. So big contribution in the free throw percentage category, and also being a non-negative in field goals, which for a guy that takes 20 shots a game and scores 25 points a game and is a point guard, it's a massive boost. So Kyrie's been a huge benefit to people who took him in the, say, third round. And he was one of those guys that I said that if you take in the third round, has got a chance to become a top 10 guy. He's not quite there yet, but over the last month, we're seeing that sort of action from him. So everything's going along really nicely for Kyrie Irving with another big night. The waiver wire line of the night goes to Timmy Hardaway Jr. of the Atlanta Hawks. Tim had a career-high 36 points and he knocked in 5 triples. But in true Tim Hardaway style, no steals, no blocks, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. And this is what always happens when we talk about Tim Hardaway and you want to analyze a line. What happened? Well, what did he do? Did he shoot the ball crazily? Of course he did. 13 of 20 from the field and 5 of 6 from the line. And that enabled him to get those 36 points. He shot 56% from 3, and this is just, look, it was great. The volume was really good from him as well, just in terms of taking 20 shots. But if the shots don't fall, and they're not falling at 65% every game, then the value is clearly not there. And in the previous couple of games, he did 10, 3, and 0, 10, 4, and 1, like numbers that weren't really relevant enough to 12-team leagues. Now, yes, he is the 78th ranked player over the last month, but the majority of those games have been without Thabo Sefolosha in the lineup. So it does skew it somewhat in that sense that Thabo wasn't there and enabling him to get more minutes, but it was a huge performance. He's a great stream option for points. He's a great GPP DFS option. He's a streaming option for three-pointers as well, but he's not a guy that I would be holding on to in every situation and owning in 12-team leagues. Generally, you're going to be better off streaming that position through. The young gun of the night, this is really exciting for me because I like Tyler Ulis. I've talked him up quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. A big night from Tyler here. He played 21 minutes and went 14, 4, and 7 with 3 steals and 6 of 9 shooting. I like what I've seen from him. Like I like it a lot. That's in the last 3 games, 17 minutes, 23 minutes, and 21 minutes, and he's had 7, 8, and 7 assists and 6 steals combined through those 3 games. If you need assists and steals, Ulis is going to have some value for you. He's going to fall into that Brandon Jennings, Ish Smith sort of role from earlier in the season where maybe their overall rank doesn't look all that appealing, but getting that amount of assists and those amount of steals from guys off the waiver wire is really useful. And if you need assists, grab him, because you just can't find assists like this anywhere. I've talked a lot about how I think that Ulis is going to be a backup point guard and plays 20 minutes a night for the next 10 years. And he's probably going to have multiple fantasy seasons ranked in the top 200 and a few that rank inside the top 150. Probably won't ever become a top 50 guy because I don't think he'll ever start. But he is a ridiculously good basketball player. And I had plenty of people who know lots about the draft, college prospects, high school prospects, that told me heading into this draft that he is the best player in this draft. Without doubt, the best player. And that's including Simmons and including guys like Ingram at the time, that Ulis was the best player. The problem is he's about 5'0", and that can be an issue, and that's going to limit what his role is in the NBA. But in terms of actually being a player, he's ludicrously good, and the Suns got a fantastic pick in the second round, and I think that they've really helped stock themselves up. Obviously Booker, I like Bender a lot, big fan of Ulis, and let's see what they get. They can get a top 2 pick, they can get the number 1 pick in this draft, and that's going to really work out in their favour. So he is the young gun of the night, Tyler Ulis. All right, let's move on now to the dud of the night. I wish I could say I didn't see this coming, but Marcin Gortat, this is the transition of his value is definitely going this direction. 6 and 6 for Gortat. No steals, no blocks, 1 assist, 2 of 7 from the field. Now, the minutes weren't too bad, just the 31 here, which is better than the last 3 games where he'd played 18, 23, and 28. But the re-emergence of Jan Mihinmi, the addition of Bojan Bogdanovic pushing Markieff Morris to the 5, we're going to see more of this from Gortat moving forward. He's the 182nd ranked player after the All-Star break, playing 27 minutes a game, averaging 9 and 9. And I had a big discussion about this yesterday on the pod. Like, ranking at this point doesn't really mean a huge amount. It all comes down to need and use of categories and what you need on your thing, on your team. And he's averaging 9 boards. That's useful. So the 9 boards can help. But half a steal, half a block, 9 points, 45% shooting. Like, there's no other positives there from Gortat. So while he was a rock-solid top 60 guy for stretches, once Mihinmi came back, this was always on the cards. And now it looks like it's going to be the reality moving forward. And I think you have to consider, if you're not just in need of a guy who's getting decent rebounds, then Gortat is not a must-hold guy, especially in 10-teamers. And in 12-teamers, I think he moves into that zone somewhat as well. It's not an absolute must-drop guy, definitely not that guy, but someone that, again, as you're churning through guys and getting the right matchups for each week, he shouldn't be locked into a lineup, is probably the best way of me phrasing that for Marcin Gortat, which is a shame because, again, he's been putting up some pretty big numbers for the majority of this season. All right, let's get into these games now and talk about them in a bit more detail. The first game that's up is the Toronto Raptors and the Washington Wizards. Jonas Valanciunas played 13 minutes, 2 points, 3 rebounds. Get rid of him. 10s, 12s, cut. This is where it's heading with Jonas. It's not getting any better. Cut him. Get rid of him. Finished. Gone. 33 minutes for Serge Ibaka, 14 and 8 with a pair of threes and a pair of blocks. Another pretty decent usage night where he took 15 shots and DeMar DeRozan took 17. DeRozan had 32, 13 and 5, and he is going to be in for an absolute monster run through March while Kyle Lowry is out. Couple of blokes that I really love on Toronto, and you know who they are. Norman Powell, 25 minutes, 21, 6 and 1 with 2 triples, 58% shooting. The fact that he can't get a consistent role or a large role on this team is mind-numbingly stupid. He should be playing over DeMario Carroll. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Well, not to me, especially now that PJ Tucker's there. PJ Tucker is the defensive guy, and Powell plays the rest. I don't see why Carroll should be playing really anywhere near the amount of minutes that Powell is. And they were basically even in this game. That doesn't mean that will happen. That doesn't mean that Dwayne Casey will do that. But that's how it should move. Powell is someone to watch, and he's a 14 to 16 team league guy, but he is on the way up. I also loved what I saw from Delon Wright. 22 minutes from Delon. The 4 blocks is obviously a little bit of an outlier, but 9 points, he hit a 3, he didn't miss a shot. He's been great since he returned. I really do like him long term, and he's a deeper league player just at the moment. PJ Tucker had 6 and 3 in 24 minutes. He's not at 12. He's a basically a 14-team league guy at this point. On to the Wizards, Johnny Wall, 38-7, 3 blocks and 4 triples, a massive night there. And it was great to see Otto Porter not only play 36 minutes, but get involved. 18, 8 and 3, 2 triples and 3 steals. It was a big night from Otto, while Braddles Beal had 27, 7 and 4. And Beal has been a sensation this year, really broken out. And talk about contract year players. Well, Bradley Beal got paid last season, and now he's turning on the big numbers. Just, again, it's the other side of the narrative that doesn't get shown. And that's where we are with Bradley Beal, putting in the big numbers and the big production for this team. Markieff Morris at centre, 11, 8 and 5 with a 1-1, 37 minutes. As I said, playing a lot of those minutes at centre. Mahinmi played 16 and had 6, 3 and 2. Brandon Jennings made his debut, only played 10 minutes and went scoreless with 2 assists. I don't think there's any reason to think that Jennings is going to be a 12-team league guy. Yes, there was some talk that they'll play some Wall, Beal and Jennings together. That's fine. He won't play 30 minutes though. He won't play 27 minutes, I don't think. While Bojan Bogdanovic had 6 points in 20 minutes. Really, again, a 3-point, a points guy like Timmy Hardaway, streaming option, but far from a standard league player. Let's talk the Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers get the victory here. Huge performance from Lance Thomas, which needs to be noted. 42 minutes for Lance, 21 and 7 with 3 triples and 2 steals. Now, his role is going to be reduced when Billy Hernangomez returns and they push Porzingis back to the 4. But this is what the Knicks should be doing. Porzingis at the 5, Mallow at the 4, Thomas at the 3, or Thomas at the 4, however you want to classify it. Whatever. This is what they should be doing. Now, this is a fluke from Lance Thomas. He is an inept offensive player in general. He's had a couple of nice, strong ones in a row, but at the moment, we're talking 16, 18-team leagues rather than that sort of a line, which is a 12-teamer. Porzingis had 18 and 7. Yeah, a decent night, but definitely nothing too spectacular. While Derrick Rose he hit 2 steals. He had 2 steals. He didn't hit them. He had 2 steals. 24 and 5. Didn't hit a 3. Didn't even attempt a 3. But still, a pretty good night from Derrick Rose. The volume from the field and from the line was somewhat of a negative. 13 shots from both and didn't convert them at the highest rate. As for Mallow, he had 18 and 6, but added 3 steals and 2 triples there, while Courtney Lee had a big game after a couple of duds. 16, 5 and 3 with 2 triples. His rankings tell you he can be owned, but have a look. Does his mediocre across-the-board production help you, or does it just not do much? Because your ranking takes every category equally, and that's not how you should be viewing things at this point in the season. Just remember that. Justin Holiday went scoreless in 18 minutes. Not even sure why I bothered to tell you that. Oh, I didn't tell you about Cock. He played 17 minutes and had 7 and 4. They're obviously just not going to be giving him minutes now, so when Billy returns, he's just going to be getting mid-teen minutes, and there's no point in holding on to him in any 12-team formats. On the Sixers, how good's Bob Cove? 36 minutes for Covington, 16, 4 and 3, 2 triples, 1 steal, 5 blocks. This guy continues to get it done. Ridiculous from him. Dario Saric played just the 27 minutes due to foul trouble. 21 and 10 with 4 assists. And Jahlil Okafor, the last time he played the Knicks, he had 29 and 10. Well, he didn't quite do that in this game, but he was actually okay. 12 and 8 in 20 minutes, foul-plagued minutes. 12 and 8 with a block. And this is the worry I have in terms of Richaun Holmes' minutes, is that I think Okafor will get 24, 25 minutes a night. Maybe if he was playing as well as this and he wasn't in foul trouble, then he would have stayed on the court, and that would limit what Holmes could do. Now, Holmes played 25 and had 10 and 4 with a block, and he's fine to own. But as I detailed in yesterday's show, these guys like him, like Alan Williams, like Billy Hernangomez, they're just going to be ins and outs and rotating pieces through depending on how things go, because there's nothing consistent about what they do. I love Justin Anderson. I've been a big Justin Anderson fan for a while, and this was a big performance. 19, 5 and 2 with 3 triples and a block. The block's fine. He can do blocks. The shooting, 67% is not going to happen, but with Gerald Henderson out with the hip injury, at least for one more game, Anderson's a name to watch. You can stream him in for Saturday when there are 8 games on and see how it goes. You can add him in 16 or 14 team leagues, but I don't think that we're in a situation where Anderson's going to be a lock for 12 team league value down the stretch. It's not like they don't have any other younger players to develop. Bob Cove, Celso Castillo, Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot, they're all going to get their minutes too. Now, Luwawu-Cabarrot had 10 and 9 in his 25 minutes, and Celso Castillo started and played 30 and had 5 and 5. So he's not just automatically leaping over those players. TJ McConnell had 11, 4 and 4 with a steal and a block. A nice solid outing from him. Let's talk Cleveland and Atlanta. LeBron, 38, 13, 8, 6 triples with 52% shooting. A big night there, while Kyle Korver hit his 3 threes on his way to 9 points. And Channing Frye, a little bit of a resurgence, 11 and 4 with 3 triples in 25 for Channing. Again, more a specialist, a streamer, not a must-own player. Derek Williams played 31 minutes last game, played 18 in this one. That was somewhat of a fluke, obviously. Well, Darren Williams, the other Willow, he had 7 assists in his 17 minutes. An assist stream, a deeper league player. Not going to be a must-own standard league guy. Iman Shumpert played 28 and had 8 and 3, and he has lost any value that he may have had. Onto the Hawks side of things, they didn't get the victory, but this was ridiculously high scoring, 135 to 130. Kent Bazemore filled the stat sheet, 14, 4 and 7 with a pair of threes and a pair of blocks. I don't think that he is a guy to own. He's a great GPP DFS option, and he's a fine guy to, hey, who's around? Let's just add Bays and see how it goes. He is quite inconsistent. Paulie Millsap with a big night, and Dwight had 15 and 10 with 3 steals also. Interesting to see how the rotation shook out here. They played, again, a very tight rotation, just 9 men. Ursan played 23 and had 10 and 8. Dennis Schroeder had 17, 2 and 7, while Torian Prince had 2 points, 2 boards in his 12 minutes. It doesn't look like he's going to get those high 20s anymore, and that moves him back to being more a 20-team league player. The surprising stat of the day for the Hawks, I guess, is Tabo Cephalosha dishing out 6 assists. Not something that you own Tabo for. Again, really a specialist guy who's not a 12-team league player. The next game, the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic. He did. Yes. Jimmy Johnson, our only son. 34 minutes for Jim. 19, 4, 6, 2, 2, and a triple, and 64% shooting. This guy is ridiculously good at putting up stats right across the board. He's only owned in 62% of Yahoo leagues. I'm sure he's owned in yours, but if he's not, go and grab him. He is so fun to watch. Hassan Whiteside, 15 and 18, and Tyler Johnson with another tight performance, 10, 5 and 5 with 2 steals. Johnson and Johnson, unintended pun, they both need to be owned. Dion Waiters. Wasn't a great night from Dion Waiters. That's maybe being a little bit kind. 20 minutes, 3 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists. Now, the last 2 games, he's been under 25 minutes. Is this a sign for the future as Joshie Richardson starts playing more minutes? You still hold Dion, but this is the fear that I had with him, is that with Richardson coming back, they'd start to move Waiters back into a 27-minute role. Not this low, but it wasn't a great night. He shot 1 of 11. And that is the Dion Waiters we know and love. Still hold him, but let's watch the situations. As for Josh Richardson, he's not a guy to own at this point. 15, 5 and 5 for Dragic with a pair of steals, while Wayne Ellington played 20 minutes and had 14 and 2. Let's talk Magic. Nikola Vucevic, big, 25 and 9, a steal and 3 blocks. Remember when he was benched for Bismack Biyombo? That was good coaching. Lord Alfred Payton had 12, 10 and 8 with 3 steals. A big night from him as well, and that was with CJ Watson returning. So really, really enjoyed that from Alfred. But as we know with Payton, the inconsistency is what the issue really is with him. And inconsistency with him and inconsistency with Vogel also. Big game from Asa Gordon too, 21 and 10 in 32 minutes on 53% shooting. He should be owned in all leagues. Well, Terry Ross really filled the stat sheet. Not something you expect from him, especially considering he got no threes. 10, 4 and 5 with 2 steals and 2 blocks. I like Ross for majority of leagues as well. Evan Fournier wasn't a great night, 11, 2 and 5. In his 32 minutes, as I said, CJ Watson returned and played 11 minutes and went scoreless. Cool. The Los Angeles Clippers and the Milwaukee Bucks, a surprise loss for the Clippers. We'll talk about the Bucks side in a sec, but Chrissy Paul had 21, 3 and 5 with 5 triples, and Blakey Griffin had 21, 9 and 8 in his 38 minutes. Obviously, some decent performances there from those stars. DeAndre Jordan, not the greatest night, especially when he goes 4 of 13 from the field. But as I say all the time, why do you care? If you own DeAndre Jordan, I don't think you should care about that in any sort of sense, really. You know that you're losing that category, so whatever. The 14 and 10 with 1 block is not an ideal level of production from Jordan, but otherwise still not a terrible night. Austin Rivers, 27 minutes for 8 points. He's done. Same as Fatface Ray Felton, who had 4, 2 and 2. And Jamal Crawford, he's not playing 20 minutes a night anymore. 17 minutes for Jamal, 9 points. On the Bucks side of things, now before I talk about this box score, I'm pretty aggressive at Jason Kidd, and I'll give the Bucks some credit. This is a big victory, a huge victory, really well done. Over their last 7 games, the Bucks are 4-3. Great stuff, especially after you've lost Jabari Parker. You've really, really good performances. The problem I have with what Jason Kidd does is that it's so obvious, to me at least, and I'm sure it's obvious to others. John Henson is not good. In the last 7 games, John Henson has been a DNP CD in 4 games. The Bucks have won all 4 of those games. In the 3 games that Kidd has decided in his level of genius, maybe we'll put Johnny Henson in. Let's limit Greg Monroe and let's get 19 out of Henson so he can screw up everything. In those 3 games, the Bucks have lost, and they got smashed in some of them. It's simple. Play Monroe minutes, don't play John Henson, you win. It's not quite that simple, but everything tells you don't play John Henson. Everything tells you play Greg Monroe, but he doesn't listen. Let's see, maybe he read my tweet today. Probably unlikely considering he doesn't follow me. But this is the concern. Chris Middleton, ridiculous. 33 minutes, 19, 4 and 9 with 4 steals, crushing it. Of course he is a must-own guy. Now, I don't know if he'll play on Saturday. It's a back-to-back, but he is almost back at full swing. 33 minutes is great news. Yanni had 24, 5 and 8 with a pair of steals and a pair of blocks. And Greggy Monroe had 24, 5 and 5 with 2 steals and a block. You love that from Monroe. That's brilliant. But can you trust Kidd to do the right thing? Or do you think that he will continue to be a numbnuts? That's a decision you got to make for yourself. I know what my decision is, but I'd still be owning Greg. Malcolm Brogdon. Yeah, just another weird one from Kitty. 12 points with 4 triples in 24 minutes, but at least Matthew Dellavedova played well and got the extra run, which is fine. 15, 1 and 8 for Dally in 36 minutes. I'm still holding Brogo, and I'm still not adding Dellavedova. And Rashad Vaughn was removed out of the starting lineup. Congratulations. And then didn't play until garbage time, because he shouldn't be playing in the NBA. It's simple. 1 minute for Vaughn, no score. Well, Tone Snell played 23 minutes and had 3, 1 and 3. Again, Tone Snell doesn't need to be playing this many minutes. He's not as good as some of these other guys. So, all in all, I don't know what's going to happen with John Henson, whether they'll bring him back for these 18-minute guaranteed loss nights. But hopefully, we continue to see some positive trends for this team. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks get a big victory here. Mike Conley, 32 and 4 with 3 triples. A big night from him, and also a massive night from Zebo. 24 and 10 with 2 assists and a steal. Really the minutes are ramping up for Randolph at the moment. The production's fine. If you need rebounding, add him. He's not going to do much in the other areas, and he's going to be inconsistent, but he's got some short-term value. JaMychal Green had 5 and 7, while Chandler Parsons just the 24 minutes. Not a good night there. Marc Gasol, oddly quiet, 13, 6 and 4 on 33% shooting, and only 1 of 4 from the line. It was not a good Marc Gasol night, and not really much else to talk about with the Grizzlies. On to the Mavs. Seth Curry, another huge one, 24, 5 and 2 with 2 steals and 2 threes. He is absolutely on fire at the moment. Imagine that the Kings could have kept this guy and decided to just take back his restricted free agent tender. That the Bulls could have gone and signed him instead of signing Rajon Rondo. But no, he signed on a $3 million deal for 2 years. Just stupid. Yogi Ferrell also had a big night. 29 minutes for Yogi, 17, 2 and 5. I still don't think that he's a 10-team must-own. He's fine for 12s. But the minutes still aren't getting to that 30 level, and I think that once we get Barea and Wes Matthews back, or if they come back, but when they come back, it is going to hurt Yogi a little bit. Massive night from Nerlens Noel, 15 and 17, a steal and 2 blocks. This is why that I thought he was a must-own guy. 35 minutes, monster. He is going to start for the rest of the season, we would assume, and he's going to put up these sort of numbers. Really excited to see what Nerlens can do moving forward. Really going to be interesting to see if he can probably not keep up this level of production, but be able to put up some numbers that are pretty high. The pencil had 18 and 3, while Dirk had 10 and 7, and the bench provided sweet FA, really. Let's move on to the next game, the Brooklyn Nets and the Utah Jazz. Man, why would I even bother talking about the Nets at this point? The minutes are spread all over the place. Nothing is certain. Everything changes on a night-by-night basis. Brook Lopez is a guy you own, 17 and 5 with 2 blocks. I thought Jeremy Lin was moving in the right direction, but only 16 minutes here. I guess it is the first night of a back-to-back, so maybe they limit him there. But 16 minutes is annoying. If you're in playoffs next week, maybe holding him's not the best idea. I still think that he's going to have a strong second half and they'll give him 26 to 27 minutes a night within a week or two. But you can't be sure of that. Karis LeVert started and played 20 minutes. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson played 17 minutes. This is just ridiculous. There is no rhyme nor reason behind any of these rotational decisions or substitution patterns. It is random every single night. The minutes are spread to every player. It is a complete crapshoot, and you've got no way of being able to predict. Like, for example, in this game, Justin Hamilton was out, so Quincy Acey came in and had 18 points in 18 minutes. Like, what? Why is everything just so spread on this team? They're developing no identity whatsoever. And they lost, so good. On to the Utah Jazz. Georgie Hill, big night. It's always good for point guards against the Nets. 34, 2 and 7 for George. While Derek Favors, this is the Derek Favors that we saw last season. 19 and 12. He hit a 3. He was 8 of 9 from the field. Really, really good numbers from Derek. Now, obviously, we can't trust that because we haven't seen that happen at all so far this season. But a pretty decent night from him. Yeah, fine. If you want to think that this is the turning point, hold on and grab him. Joey Ingles. 12, 4 and 2, 4 triples and a steal. Big night with Rocket Rodney Hood out. And Ingles is going to be able to put up value as long as Rodney remains out. We don't know how long Rocket's going to miss, but Ingles wouldn't be a terrible stream guy. 12, 3 and 6 for Gordo Hayward, while Rudy Gobert had 11 and 7. And Dante Exum played 16 off the bench, while Alec Burks played 23 and had 8 and 6. Not much more to talk about with the Jazz. Let's go to the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Phoenix. A terrible loss for the Thunder against the Suns. Russ was ridiculous. 48, 17 and 9, 3 threes and 3 steals, and was fantastic with his percentages, going 17 of 18 from the field and 14 of 30 from the field. 17 of 18 from the line and 14 of 30 from the field. Big numbers from Russ. Andre Robertson had 2 blocks. Steve Adams, and people were worried about Steve Adams' minutes. He fouled out and he still got 30. Look, this is what he's going to do. The 23 from yesterday was due to foul trouble. The numbers aren't awesome, 9 and 10 with a steal and a block, but don't base it on the 23 minutes he got in Thursday's game. If you want to move on from Adams, I can understand it. Alex Abrines, who played 9 minutes yesterday, played 33 today, 13 points with 3 triples. While Taj Gibson, who played over 30 in the last game, played 14, 3 and 4 with a steal and a block. I don't think Taj is a 12-team league guy, and I know that Doug McDermott isn't. 6 points in 35 minutes for Doug with no other numbers. That's pretty stock standard for him. And Domantas Sabonis, that's who I want to talk about. 11 with 2 triples in 13 minutes. His role, it really should be eliminated, but I don't know whether it would be. What value do you get from playing 13 minutes to Sabonis and instead of giving those 13 minutes to Taj Gibson? Like, what value is there in that at all? I don't see it. On to the Suns. Big Source Alan Williams, 30 minutes, 14 and 13, a steal and 3 blocks. Own him. He looks like he's going to get the bulk of the minutes. Now, we can't be 100% sure of this, but it just looks like he's going to get the bulk of the minutes. Now, again, in this game, there's a factor that we have to pay attention to because Alex Len had 4 fouls in 13 minutes. So did that enable Williams to get big minutes? Because in the last game, he played only 23, even with Len struggling. But Williams is putting up numbers at such a high rate, you can't ignore it. You have to own him. Marquise Chris, that's better. 7, 2 and 1 with 2 steals. I would own Williams over Chris at this point, while Eric Bledsoe had 18, 3 and 5 with 4 steals. And Devin Booker, 17, 7 and 3, and both Bledsoe and Booker struggled with their shot. TJ Warren, it wasn't his best night, but still 15 and 7 in 27 minutes. I'll take it, and I'll own it on every single team in any single league that I'm in. Also great to see that with this youth movement that we're getting Jared Dudley play 26 minutes a night. I understand that the best thing I can say about that is that when Dragon Bender comes back, I hope he gets those 26 minutes. Going to be interesting to see what Bender does when he comes back. You know I'm a big fan of Dragon. The San Antonio Spurs and the New Orleans Pelicans. Kawhi, this is an overtime game and the Spurs get the victory. 31, 7 and 6 for Kawhi with 3 steals. And LaMarcus had 21 and 15 with 3 blocks. Really underwhelming season from Aldridge. And I don't think anyone will be looking to grab him in the top 50 next year would be my guess. Pau Gasol, 36 minutes off the bench, 13 and 8. If he is unowned in your league, please make sure you grab him. Well, Dwayne Dedmon, it doesn't matter that he starts necessarily. 16 minutes, I love him, but he needs 24 minutes to be useful. 14 and 5 with a block in those 16. And Dan Green with a big 36-minute performance, just 6, 7 and 3 though, so not a great night. Danny Green is a 14 to 16 team league guy. Tone Parker returned and had 4, 1 and 4 in his 24 minutes, while Pat Mills had 15 points, including 4 triples in 29 minutes. Mills is just a streaming option. He's a 14 to 16 team league player. Onto the Pelicans side of things. Anthony Davis, 29, 9 and 3, and a triple one in 42 minutes. And if you look at the shot distribution here, Davis took 18 shots. Boogie took 18 shots. Drew Holiday took 27 shots. The next highest was Etuan Moore with 8. So it was those three guys doing everything they could. And the best thing that when I look at this and look at this game from a Drew Holiday perspective, I'll talk about Davis in a sec, is the fact that he was still able to put up these big numbers. Now, I was pretty confident about Holiday, and I talked about this over the last week, of what he's going to be able to do with Boogie in the lineup. I was pretty confident that he'd be able to have good numbers because some of his poor performances came on poor shooting, and he did it here. 26, 7 and 5 with 2 triples and 44%. Massive usage, obviously 32%, the highest on the team. Really, really like this from Drew, so there was no need to panic too much. Boogie had 19 and 23 with a 3 and 4 assists. And the rest of the team, Hollis Thompson still starting and playing 29 minutes. For what reason, I have absolutely no idea. And Jarrett Jack's going to be out for a fairly lengthy period of time with a knee problem. I don't think that they'll even bother re-signing him when his 10-day is up. The last game of the night, the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Celtics get the comfortable victory. Out of nowhere, Amir Johnson with the big 13, 6 and 4, 2-3, 2 steal, 1 block night. Chalk that up to 1 out of the box and don't expect it to happen again. Marcus Smart had 7, 5 and 4 with 4 steals. The prototypical Marcus Smart night. Ignore the points, ignore the field goal percentage, and you get those other tasty things that he delivers. Isaiah Thomas only needed 26 minutes out of Isaiah, 18, 2 and 8 on 46% shooting, while a big Al Horford night helps when you play the Lakers, 17, 4 and 3. Kelly Olynyk struggled, 7 and 2 in his 14 minutes, while Avery Bradley played 24 minutes. It looks like he will be back to full minutes next week, 15, 4 and 4, so that's going to be a welcome return. And Jaylen Brown was great, 16 and 8 in 23 minutes. Looks fantastic, really has developed over these last 2 months. Speaking of developing, Brandon Ingram played 26 minutes and went scoreless and had 4 points and 2 assists and 1 steal. Somehow confusingly owned in 48% of leagues. That is way too high. He's not a 12-team league guy. I am not a Brandon Ingram fan. I think he'll be better than this, and I think he'll develop, but it is not happening this season. Jordy Clarkson, 24 and 3, 3 steals, 30 minutes, must own. D'Angelo Russell, 17, 3 and 4 with 2 triples, a steal and a block. Another big night, and I loved what I saw from Larry Nance, 8, 4 and 4 with 2 steals and a block there from Nancy. Julius Randle had that monster the other day and then went back to earth, 13, 3 and 7, and that's, I guess, what we can expect more from him. And the other pleasing sign from the Lakers was my boy, Ivica Zubac, 23 minutes, 8, 1 and 3, but 2 steals and 2 blocks. But the minutes is what I love. 23 minutes there from Zubac. Yeah, that's encouraging for the rest of the season. Is he a must-own guy? I would own Williams over him, a big source. I would own Richaun Holmes over him, but I would own him over, say, an Alex Len if you've got a little bit of room to wait. If he gets 30 minutes, he will outproduce a lot of guys. Gortat, Valanciunas, he's going to be a better option than those guys, I believe, down the stretch if he gets to 30. But it is a tough ask at this point to expect him to get there, and I don't think that you should be overly hopeful of that happening. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back. Actually, I should take, because it's a new song we've got today. It's by Friends of Elvis with Ed Kowalski and Bobby Callar there from Pittsburgh, and the song is called Hit My Stride. So thank you to Ed, who contacted me and sent the songs through. So Friends of Elvis is the name of the band, and Hit My Stride. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back to talk DFS for Saturday.
If I don't, and suddenly particular
All right, guys, we are back, and as the show went to air early tonight, I don't have the graphic up for the perfect DFS lineup, but I will be able to give you the perfect DFS lineup because the games have finished now. So let's bring those up now. Just waiting for them to load up on my screen. Should have had that prepared in the break. Didn't think about that. Just was going over and having a chat to Ben and seeing how he was going playing WWE 2K7. Not 2K7, 2K17 as he's creating his own guy. So I'm just filling time here while I wait for this screen to load up. The joys of internet speed while you're trying to live stream something. Okay, let's start with DraftKings today. We'll reverse the order. Russ Westbrook at 89.75. Timmy Hardaway at 43.5. Justin Anderson at 31.25. LaMarcus Aldridge, 46.25. Nerlens Noel, 46.75. Kyrie at 70. Chrissy Middleton at 45. And Alan Williams, big sauce, at 40.25 for a total of 412.75. And that cost the full $50,000 of the DraftKings salary cap. Now we wait for the FanDuel perfect lineup. Russ Westbrook, 83.9. Kyrie, 65.9. Timmy Hardaway, 40.4. Big Norm Powell, 31.7. LeBronald had 33.6. Bazemore at 34.3. Nerlens, 44.4. Amir Johnson, 30.2. And Alan Williams at 37.1 for a total of 431.5. And that cost $59,900 dues. All right, let's move into these games now, talk about them in a bit more detail to help prepare for DFS. Detroit at Philadelphia is the first game. The Pistons are favoured by 4.5, and the total is 209 points here. There has been a word from Stan Van Gundy that he may move Ish Smith into the starting lineup at the expense of Reggie Jackson. Now, we're going to hear that news before lineups lock because it is the first game. It's a slightly earlier game than normal. It's a 6 p.m. Eastern start, so be aware of that. And FanDuel and DraftKings may not include it in some of their contests just because it's not a 7 p.m. start. So again, just be aware of that. But there is going to be some ability, maybe for a bit of a sneaky play with Reggie or Ish. Now, it's not like their prices are great. Reggie comes in at 5,000 and you go, okay, well, maybe I'll play Ish because he might start. Yeah, that's great in theory. But he's at 4,600 on FanDuel, so it's not a great price. He's at 44 on DraftKings as well. And to be honest, Ish isn't a great fantasy player, and that salary is probably fine for if he starts. Fine to use. I think it would be okay if you use him in cash. But as we've seen with Van Gundy, if he starts, it doesn't mean that he's playing 30 minutes. He might start and play 18 or 19 or 24 or 26 or 27 or 33. Like, who knows? So I don't think I would really want to use either of these guys in cash, even if the switch is made, because we don't know if the switch is just a lineup switch or if it's a minutes distribution switch or what they're going to do. So just be aware that it's not so much of a slam dunk. I do like TJ McConnell at 5,600 here. I think that he is a fairly solid cash game point guard that's going to get you 26 or 27 points on most nights. At shooting guard, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope at 53. He is a GPP guy and a GPP guy only. He is up and down, but he could easily have a big game against Philadelphia. And Sauce Castillo, who started the last game in place of Gerald Henderson, never does well as a starter. I'm not interested in using Stauskas here. At small forward, Justin Anderson is a minimum salary player on both sides. You have to love that on DraftKings at $3,000. Gerald Henderson is out, and yes, he won't shoot at 67% again, but he should get mid-20s in minutes, and that should be plenty for him to get more than $3,000 worth or $3,500 worth of value. Really, really like Justin Anderson. Almost, I would have him as a core guy, unless we hear something weird come out of Philadelphia. He is a core player. Bob Cove crushing at 7,200. I like him. Probably not a great upside at that price, but I don't hate it for cash. He's averaging 37 over the last 5, which is 7,200. Is spot on where it needs to be. Marcus Morris is up and down. 6,200, I dislike that at that price, especially with Robert Covington on him now. But Robert Covington is a top 20 player in basically every defensive metric, advanced metric there is. He is the number one small forward in defensive real plus minus as well. He is having a ridiculously good defensive season, and he goes very much underrated. Very fantastic defender. At power forward, Richaun Holmes at 4,600. I don't have the trust to use him in cash, but obviously the upside is there, so he's worth a look in that spot. And the tackle box, John Lewis, coming off a 38-point game at 4,600. I'm not sure that I'm fully into the tackle box there, but there is some upside, obviously. Same with Toby Harris at 53. But if I'm going GPP, I would take Lua. As for Šarić, he is at 7,300. Another solid game from him today, 38 points. 7,300 maybe just feels a little bit too high, and 74 on DraftKings is definitely not interesting. Andre Drummond at 81, always a GPP guy, but he has got a great matchup and he's got a good record against Philly. I like him here, but I just can't put my faith in him in cash. He's just too up and down. As for Jaleel Okafor, if he stays out of foul trouble, it's not a bad matchup. Sneaky GPP for Jaleel. I don't like Jaleel. I think he's terrible, but if they go with him, if they give him minutes, it might work out. I wouldn't put much faith in it though, but could be a sneaky GPP guy because I don't think that many people were going to be on him. All right, let's what's the next game? Yes, it is Toronto and Milwaukee. The Raptors are favored by 2. The total is 206 points here. Couple of question marks in Milwaukee. It's a back-to-back. We haven't heard from Milwaukee whether Chris Middleton will play or not. If Chris Middleton is out, then it opens up some weird minutes distributions to guys like Jason Terry, Rashad Vaughn, Tone Snell, Brogo, Daly, all these players. The other one is Terrence Jones may make his debut. He is set to be signed across the weekend. He might be ready to play. So that's another wrinkle that gets added into the Milwaukee question mark, I guess, is the best way of putting it. At point guard, Brogo at 5,200. Well, limited minutes for him today while Daly got hot. I don't think that will stay that way, but I'm not sure. Brogo is a solid cash play. He's fine. He's not great, but he's not terrible. As for Corey Joseph at 5,000, if Corey Joseph was at 4,500, I think he'd be a great cash point guard. 5,000 just feels a little high, especially in somewhat of a negative matchup here. If I want to take a punt on a low-priced point guard, I like Delon Wright, who had put almost 20 up today. He's been playing. He plays off the ball as well. He's a $3,000 guy, so he's not as good as the $3,000 Justin Anderson with Philadelphia, but at $3,000 on DraftKings, he put up 21 today. He's averaging almost 15 points over the last 3 games. That's fine to take a punt on. It's not great. It's not perfectly going to work for you, but there's some upside there. Daly's at 39, had 25 today. Again, came on a little bit of hot shooting from Dellavedova, so I'm not getting too interested in using him. At shooting guard, some big names here. Yanni's at 10,800. He dropped in 49 against the Clippers. He's got a pretty good record against Toronto. 10,800 is expensive. I don't think that I would use Yanni in that spot. I would definitely consider DeMar DeRozan. He's at 9,900. He had 51 points today. You should feel pretty good about him getting 45 on the majority of nights. And over on DraftKings, both guys are about $1,000 cheaper. 9,800 for Yanni and 8,700 for DeMar. Still the same sort of story applies there. You prefer DeRozan over Yanni marginally. Norm Powell was massive today, 3,800 and put up 32 points. Can he get that going? I'm not 100% sure, but absolutely as a GPP guy, there's upside in Powell, especially if they continue to limit Jonas and go real small, which is a possibility here. We're just not 100% sure the way that Dwayne Casey's going to run that. At small forward, Chrissy Middleton's at 5,300. If he plays, I love it. If he plays, I'm all over that, but we just don't know. At 6,000 on DraftKings, I'm a little cooler, but I still think that that's great value if he happens to play. As for Damari Carroll, well, you'd have to pay me $3,900 to put him in a lineup, I think, at this spot. While PJ Tucker have no interest in that. Tone Snell, if Middleton is out, he's at $3,900. Speculative GPP guy, definitely. Let's talk power forward. Serge Ibaka, 6,900. 6,900. Oh, thank you, Quagmire. Yeah, love it. Love big man against Milwaukee. Love the spot for Serge. Really, look, he's only averaging 29 over the last 5, but this is a spot for a real boost, and he could go big in this one. I really do like it. Pat, no thank you. Terrence Jones, he's not listed up on FanDuel or DraftKings yet, so he's not able to be played. Let's talk centers. Greggy Munro's at 6,300. Do we get the Bucks that want to win, or do we get the Bucks that want to lose? If we get the ones that want to win, then Munro will play 30 minutes, and he will be able to exceed that value. If we get Jason Kidd deciding that we need to see what John Henson can do in 18 minutes, then the Bucks will lose, and Munro won't get to that level. So he is a GPP option, Greggy, and can easily get past that number. At 5,600 on DraftKings, that's almost too hard to pass up, especially as a GPP, regardless of what sort of stupidity Kidd wants to do on the day. As for Jonas Valanciunas, yeah, definitely not. I love Jonas, but he is getting murdered in Toronto. All right, let's move on to the next game. Cleveland and Miami. No spread currently released for this game yet. Let's talk about it anyway. At point guard, Goran Dragic, 7,600. Great matchup for Goran. He's been not underwhelming because he's been good, but he hasn't been at that level of 7,600, so I'm not fully into him there. Now on DraftKings at 7,100, that I like. I really like Iron at 7,100 on DraftKings, just not as much on FanDuel. I still think there's value on FanDuel with him, but it's not as enticing to me as what he is on DraftKings. Tyler Johnson at 5,800 just feels really consistent. I don't mind him as a cash point guard at 5,800. The numbers from him have been impressive. He's at 57 on DraftKings, so I'm a little bit cooler over there. Kyrie at 9,000, obviously with a monster performance today, putting up 66 points. 9,000's a lot. The Heat defense has been somewhat troublesome this season. I don't think that I would use him, same with Darren Williams. Let's talk shooting guards. Dion Wade is at 6,900. They boosted his salary. Cool. He's averaging 18 points over the last 3 games. That is as big a no from me as you'll find. 64 on DraftKings, the same. Joshy Rich, Kyle Korver, no interest in either of those players. Let's talk about the small forwards, and it's only really LeBron that's interesting here. He is at 11,100. I feel pretty good about LeBron. He is averaging 53 points over the last 5, 55 over the last 3. I don't really see who's shutting him down at the Heat unless Jimmy Johnson's getting stuck into him. If you're looking to spend some cash, I think LeBron's a better option than, say Yanni. I really like this spot here for James. Really good situation. 10,900 for him over on DraftKings. Power forwards, Channing Frye, no thanks. Derek Williams, no thanks. Against his former team, revenge game. You know my thoughts on that. Jim Johnson, $6,000. A huge game today. I don't mind it. I'm not totally falling for it. I'm not totally into it at that price. On DraftKings at 5,600, I really like it. I think there's great value for him at 5,600 there. But at 6,000 on FanDuel, I'm not totally into it, but you can definitely use him, and I don't think you should feel too bothered by it. Tristan Thompson's at 6,100, and that is just way too high. 51 on DraftKings is interesting, and against Whiteside it might work, but I'm still not falling for it. Whereas Hassan Whiteside at 8,000, he is a GPP play on both FanDuel and on DraftKings. Let's move on now onto the next game. We've got the Los Angeles Clippers trying to back up after a disappointing defeat against the Bucks. They take on the all-conquering Chicago Bulls. The Clippers are favored by 1.5, and the total is 212 points in this game. We don't know if Michael Carter-Williams will play. If he's healthy, I don't know that he'll play anyway. And Diamond Stone for the Clippers. Again, if he's healthy, he won't play. So all in all, it doesn't mean anything. At point guard, Chrissy Paul, 9,600. That's a lot, obviously. Is Chris Paul worth it in this matchup? Well, over on FanDuel at 9,600, I'm going to say no, because you're going to need 46 or 47. The matchups are positive, so that's GPPs only. But on DraftKings, where he comes in at 8,900, I really like that. He is averaging 44 over the last 3. Again, it's a positive matchup, but I'm not fully locking him in as a core guy. For the Bulls point guards, who knows? Rajon Rondo, Ray Felton, Cam Payne, Jaren Grant, none of them stand out as being guys that I have really any interest in whatsoever, and same with Austin Rivers and Ray Felton. JJ Redick's at 4,300. He had 18 points today. That's sort of what he does. Definitely not a cash guy, but has some GPP upside, but it's fairly limited, while Dwayne Wade is down to 7,400 based on his disappointing night against the Warriors, just 23 points in that game. At 7,400, I would be inclined to consider Wade a GPP player. Probably not a cash guy, though, at this point. Denzel Valentine, his minutes are going to be impacted by Zip Sanity, so I wouldn't be getting too excited there. Jimmy Butler, 9,100. Yep, fine. Cash, GPPs, really like Jim at that sort of a salary. As for Paul Zipser at minimum salary, well, he put up 17 in the last game. He's going to have a significant role, a 20, 23, 24-minute role, but he just doesn't produce enough. So the role is nice, the salary is nice, but the production's not something that I'm fully getting behind. But it's not terrible. Now, he's 3,000 on DraftKings. That puts him more into a GPP sort of a conversation, I believe. Not using Luke Marmute, even though he had 19 points today. At power forward, Bob Portis at 4,400. Do we get first half against the Warriors, Bob, or do we get second half? First half, that's an easy win. Second half, not so much. He did still have 34 FanDuel points in that game, so I like him. I don't like him for cash. I like his GPP upside. As for Nikola Mirotic, limited minutes the last 2 games, but still, if Portis struggles, if he carries over the second half form to the first half and they give 27 to Mirotic, then he'll easily exceed 4,100. It's a guessing game with a lot of the Bulls rotation. And Mirotic is one of those guessing games that you have to take part in. Really makes him just a GPP sort of a player. Blakey Griffin at 9,700, maybe just a little bit too high at that sort of a price, 9,000 on DraftKings, but we know he can go for 55, 50, 60 points. Well, we've seen him do that. I just wouldn't be locking him in at cash at that sort of a price. The Bulls centers, Robin Lopez or Cristiano Felicio. Felicio closed last game. Who knows how the minutes are going to go? I would have no interest in Lopez and probably not much in Felicio. Now, DeAndre Jordan is at 7,600. The Bulls have been a very negative matchup for centers recently. Jordan hasn't been crushing it himself, averaging 34 over the last 5. So I think that he is someone that I will leave alone in DFS lineups. All right, let's move on to the next game. We've got the Charlotte Hornets taking on the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets are favored by 5. The total is the second highest of the day, 221.5 points. Let's get stuck into it. We have got the point guards. Jameer Nelson is right to play, so that moves the blue arrow back into a backup role most likely. Jameer is at 5,400. I'm not really interested in him at that price, although the matchup is super interesting. Going against Charlotte is a real boost for point guards, so that's something that you can have a look at with Nelson or the blue arrow if they decide to start him. And the blue arrow is Jamal Murray, if you haven't caught on to that nickname yet. I didn't invent that nickname, but I love it. It's one of my favorite non-Josh nicknames. Kemba, love it. 8,500, crushing it. Brilliant matchup, averaging 43 over the last 3. Can't complain anything about that sort of a situation for Kemba. Now, on DraftKings at 8,500, it's probably getting a little bit too expensive, and you might be able to find better options, but this is as good as it gets in terms of matchups for point guards, unless your name's Steph Curry. So Kemba is definitely a guy to look at on both sites there. At shooting guard, my man Gaz Harris at 5,400. I'm not sure his upside is really great, but I think he's fairly consistent around that 25-point mark, and that's going to be good for cash games. Nick Batum is at 6,800, so a significant price drop there for Nikola. Can he get it working out against a not great defense? Sure, but I won't fully trust it. Jezza Lamb, no thanks. And Farton Will Barton is averaging just 21 over the last 3. And at 5,800, I don't think you want to spend 5,800 on the Fartster. Small forwards, Mick Kidd-Gilchrist. Frank Kaminsky will not play, so Kidd-Gilchrist is going to play more at the 4. 5,400 for Kidd-Gilchrist, love it. I don't think his upside for GPPs is necessarily that high, but I think that he can easily get you 26 points, 27 points, which at 5,400 is exactly what you need, and could easily just come in at 30 here. Wilson Chandler at 63, probably a little bit high, while the Rooster Danilo Gallinari at 66. Love what he's doing if it was at 6,000. At 6,600, I'm not fully all there for it. He's been consistently good, but not consistently high enough good. That was a poorly phrased sentence. At power forward, Nikola Jokic, 9,900. He's been going, it feels like, almost at half pace and still averaging 44. I'm here for Jokic at 4,400. Sorry, 9,900. I wish it was 44. 99. He's at 95 over on DraftKings. Yep, you're happy to roster him in both those. And Marv Williams also gets a boost with Kaminsky out. 5,700 for Marv. He got 27 in the last game. And much like with Kidd-Gilchrist, I'm not sure his GPP upside is all that high, but his cash game suitability is good. I really like it here. At center, Cody Zeller, will he get the full minutes? I don't like that he's at 5,900. FanDuel has reacted and gone, screw you guys, we're just bumping him up. So that sort of takes him out of play there for me. And at 55 on DraftKings, they've done the same. I'm not fully into that price. I'm interested to see what he can do, but that price basically takes away any upside you might get from Cody Zeller at all. Let's move now on to the next game. We've got the Memphis Grizzlies. They're taking on the Houston Rockets. The Rockets are favored by 8, and the total is 218.5. Brandon Wright has missed the last couple of games due to personal reasons. We hope everything is okay with him. If he is out, it's more minutes for Zebo. It's more minutes for JaMychal Green as well. Let's talk point guards. Mick Conley at 7,700. He gets Pat Bev, so let's write that off. And as for Pat Bev at 5,600, he's coming off a 35-point game, and he is averaging 26 over the last 5. But I'm not feeling confident about him against Memphis, so no interest for me. Shooting guards. Jim Harden, 11,500. Tone Allen defense is a worry. Now, he has done okay against Memphis, but not great. In fact, for who Jim Harden is, probably not ideal. 46-point average the last 3 times that he's taken them on. There's a chance that he breaks out from that. And I love that he is at 11,100 over on DraftKings. That's a very nice price. He's averaging 52 in DraftKings, so I'm a bit happier about him on DraftKings, but the Tone Allen defense, Memphis has been able to put some sort of clamps on Jimmy Harden. I wouldn't be using Tone, and Lou Williams at 6,100. That's a good way to light money on fire. Watch him go out there and score 1,000,000 points. Now, Eric Gordon, no thank you either. At small forward, Chandler Parsons, of course not. Trev Ariza, Vince Carter. There's just no interest in this game, really, from a lot of points of view. Now, Zebo at power forward at 6,100. Putting up good numbers. 37 average over the last 3. 32 over the last 5. If Brandon Wright is out, I'm okay with using Zebo in a GPP format, but I just cannot trust him to produce those numbers on a regular basis. For Ryan Anderson, you know the drill with him. He is GPP only. He is as inconsistent as they come. And the centers, Marc Gasol is too expensive at 8,400. The matchup is brilliantly good, but 8,400 is too high. Now, Mark comes in at 79 on DraftKings, and that's a little better, and I would use him over on DraftKings. As for the Rocket Center, well, the table Montrezl Harrell didn't play last game, so I'm not sure that means he's totally eliminated from the rotation, but that would help Clint Capella. He's at 5,100, but Marc Gasol is a significant negative for opposition centers, so I'm not sure that Clint makes the best option. He has some upside, but it's really not all that high, and I don't think that using Nene is going to be all that productive. All right, let's crack on to the next game. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves and the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are favored by 8.5, and the total is 206 here. The Spurs, it's a back-to-back in March, coming off an overtime game, so don't be surprised if Tone Parker, Pau Gasol, LaMarcus Aldridge, if one of these guys rests. Not all of them, but someone might rest, so don't be surprised, and that might open up a little bit of value for them. At this point, we don't know. At point guard, Tone Parker's at 4,500, has been putting up solid-ish type of numbers, but I wouldn't be really interested in using him. Tyus Jones is a GPP upside play, while ravishing Rick Rubio at 6,900 has been solid. Really good, averaging 33 over the last 3, consistently good. But against the Spurs, especially when he's just a little bit under that price tag, is not a situation I want to get heavily invested in. The shooting guards, there is nothing to see with shooting guards in this game. Small forward Kawhi, 9,000. Of course, Kawhi is always fine. 88 on DraftKings, no problem with using Kawhi Leonard at that sort of a salary whatsoever. While Wigo is at 7,900. Kawhi on him, yeah, you can scrap that. Wigo needs to get shots off, and he needs to get shots in, and when Kawhi's on him, that's not happening. It's not happening to the level it does in other games. So, sorry, Wigo, you are, yeah, you know what? You can contrarian. No, that didn't make sense. Contrarianly use him in GPPs and go, well, maybe people will be all off him. But I really cannot see it happening for Wigo in this game if I'm just using some thoughts of common sense. Shabazz Muhammad had a good game in the last one, but he is as streaky as they come. At power forward, LaMarcus Aldridge at 6,900 has been totally underwhelming. A decent game from him today, but it doesn't change my mind to make me think that he is a cash game option. On DraftKings, though, at $6,000, I like the upside. I like the GPP upside there, and he has had a pretty good record against Minnesota. Gorgie Jeng is struggling somewhat. He's at 4,900. Gorgie can always turn in a game where you least expect it, so he is a GPP guy, while Nemanja Bjelica has seen his salary rise by $4,800, mainly because he got 40 points in that last game. Obviously, a big performance from Bjelica there. But I wouldn't be expecting a replication of that, and that increased salary turns me off using him. At center, Pau Gasol's at 6,300, back-to-back, big minutes from Pau today, not interested. Won't be using him there, while Karl Anthony Towns is where the money is, 10,400 for Townsy. Yes, it's somewhat of a negative matchup, and he has struggled against the Spurs, so I think that the 10,400 you'd have to spend on Towns is probably best spent in another area. But on DraftKings at 9,400, that's a little bit better, and I think there is definite value in using Towns at 9,400. I don't really have any interest in using Dwayne Dedmon. The last game of the night, we have got the Brooklyn Nets and the Portland Trailblazers. If anyone has any idea what the Nets are going to do, please let me know. Because no, actually, that's not true. I know what they're going to do. They're going to limit the minutes to everybody. Joe Harris left today's game with a possible concussion, so I don't think he will play. And Justin Hamilton, who missed with an illness, he's obviously in doubt for this contest as well. Let's talk point guards. Dame Lillard, 9,200. We've seen point guards crush the Nets, but Lillard has been great the last 3 games. That means, probably a substandard game is coming. He's averaging 50 over the last 3. If you want to have a crack at him as a cash guy, this would be the time to do it. Portland's not good enough to necessarily blow the Nets out, and he will have some big games. So he is definitely worth a look. I would lean more GPP, but I can understand that if you're going to go cash, this is the one to do it in. Jeremy Lin, we assume he plays, but the minutes will be low, so he is of no interest, while Spencer Dinwiddie and Isaiah Whitehead, who knows what Atkinson's going to do, and you'll hear me say that phrase a lot. At shooting guard, CJ McCollum, 7,600, great matchup. Really like using CJ here, a lot of value. While Alan Crabb's a minimum salary guy, does he have a look at a team that offered him that offer sheet? Does he get a chance with some extra shots? GPPs for Crabbe, but definitely some upside in using him in this matchup. Shawnee Kilpatrick, I don't have any interest there. And Karis LeVert at 42 is just a GPP guy, but who knows what Atkinson is going to do. Once again, at small forward, Mo Harkless at 48, really like him at that salary. Great matchup, low salary, very nice spot for Mo. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson doesn't play enough for me to be interested in. Power forward, I like Al-Farouq Aminu at 5,400. He's at 55 on DraftKings, so probably a little bit better on FanDuel, but I do really like him on both sites there. And Trevor Booker, who's been solid, but not $5,200 worth of solidness, I don't think. At center, let's talk Jusuf Nurkic, who's seen a big $1,000 price rise. He's at 6,400 on FanDuel and 67 on DraftKings. Doesn't mean I wouldn't use him. I think it's a great spot to use Nurkic again, and he should be able to exceed 30 points. The guy is averaging 34 over his last 5, including a game where he had 17. So he has been putting up big numbers. You have to like that. Brookie Lopez is 6,900, not quite getting to that level of value, but I reckon that this is a good spot for Lopez as well, so I wouldn't be afraid to use him on both sites, both FanDuel and DraftKings. Alright, let's now talk picks of the day. On FanDuel, we have got Delon Wright at minimum salary, TJ McConnell 56 and Dames at 92, Karis LeVert 42, Gaz Harris at 54 and Jim Harden at 11.5. At small forward, Justin Anderson 35, Kid Gilchrist at 54, and Jim Butler at 91. And at power forward, Richaun Holmes 46, Al-Farouq Aminu 54, and Nikola Jokic 99. At center, Jusuf Nurkic 64, and Andre Drummond 81. On DraftKings, Tone Douglas is minimum salary. He's worth a look at that price. TJ McConnell 52 and Jim Harden 11.1. Juzzy Anderson at 3,000, Gaz Harris at 55, and Jim Butler at 91. At small forward, LeVert at 4,000, Kid Gilchrist 52, and Leonard at 88. Power forward, Bob Portis 48, Aldridge at 6,000, and Towns at 94. And at centre, Greggy Munro 56 and Nikola Jokic 9,500. For the Aussies, Moneyball 4,200 for Corey Joseph, Kemba at 79 and Lillard at 94. LeVert 35, McCullum 73, and Jim Harden 11.7. At small forward, Juzz Anderson 35, Kid Gilchrist 57, and Butler at 91. And at power forward, Bob Portis 35, Marvin Williams 53, and Blakey Griffin 99. And at centre, Jusuf Nurkic 61 and Nikola Jokic 9,100. At the time of me doing this, the Draft Stars prices hadn't been released at this point. We are done, guys. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball, the same on Instagram and facebook.com/redrockbasketball. If you have got a spare second, leave a review on iTunes. It severely or significantly helps the podcast grow, and I do appreciate everybody who has done that. We are done here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Alvin Gentry.